All right, this is Two on One, the only show on the internet, and you're listening to it or watching it because it's your only choice. Of course, Two on One is a conversation between two theologians and their guest on the topic of his, her, or their choosing. I'm one of those co-hosts, the Reverend Arthur Stewart.
And I am your other co-host, the Reverend Stephanie Kendall. But Arthur, it is not their only choice. It is their first choice. Right. They are here because it is their first and only choice.
Right, which also means it's their last choice, technically. But we're not going to get into that on this last Sunday of the year. Merry Christmas, Spiff. Merry Christmas, deuces.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we're in the thick of it. It's the 5th day of Christmas, so please be prepared for these kind of jokes.
I wouldn't be 2 on 1 if we didn't, if you didn't sing a little bit.
Well, and anything with 4 syllables is fair game. So just heads up.
That seems accurate. I'm here for it. But Arthur, can you believe it is the end of season 2? It's
the end of season 2. We have done, this is episode 49 on the season. This is episode number 80 in our run.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's great. It's been a hell of a ride. I'm looking forward to season 3 and Sondheim month coming up.
Yes, well, you just announced our Deuces didn't know. Deuces next month is Sondheim month. We decided after the passing of Stephen Sondheim, and also 2 on 1 kind of started on Sondheim. It was a conversation.
So like every 80 episodes or so, we should circle back.
There we go. So we have 4 incredible faith leaders coming in January, and we are doing Into the Woods, West Side Story, Company, and Merrily We Roll Along. Not in that order, but I had to do it off the top of my head. And I'm so excited for those conversations, for our deuces to meet some new faith leaders. If you didn't know them, and to like hear the work that they are doing, and to kick off season 3.
It will be great.
It will. But you know who else is great?
Jeff One Row Designs. That was 5 syllables, but yes, Jeff One Row Designs, a purveyor.
Crushed it.
What's that?
I said you crushed it.
I did crush it. Jeff One Row Designs is a purveyor and creator of handmade liturgical textiles of all seasons, varieties, shapes, and sizes. You may be looking for frontals, paraments, altar accessories, stoles, chasubles, copes, miters, whatever you need. Jeff One Row Designs has literally got you covered.
If you didn't get one of those things that you really wanted for Christmas, there is still time to use your 2 on 1 promo code, which is 2 on 1, all letters, no numbers, 2 on 1. Look at me, final episode of the season, and got my numbers and letters straight.
That's right. Use that code for 15% off your entire stole order. Friends, this code ends at the end of 2021.
Sure does.
Today, TWOONONE. Go to Jeff One Row, JEFFWUNROW. Almost had it great. I was congratulating myself as I was still talking. Go to JEFFWUNROW.com. Check out the full catalog. Say hi. Make sure you use 2 on 1 for 15% off your entire stole purchase.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing.
What's the thing?
Jeff makes a lot more than just stoles.
Right.
Our code is for 15% off stoles. And deuces, we know when you use it, we're really grateful for that. However, if you need something else, like a face mask per se, this Omicron variant is really popping up. So
COVID's coming back.
COVID, back with a vengeance, like Die Hard 3. Oh, we should do a Die Hard series. I know. Sorry. But if you are someone that, if you're going back to Jeff and you're like, I need paraments, I need a mask, I need whatever it is that you need from Jeff, there's a place in which to say, like, how did you hear about us? We would appreciate it if you threw 2 on 1 in there. So he knows you may not be able to use the code, but you were brought to his space by us. And because we want to make sure that these relationships are reciprocal, and he knows that.
And he's our partner, and we're so thrilled to work alongside him and with him. And thank you, Jeff, and happy Christmas and happy New Year to you as well. Hey, let's get our guest in here.
Okay.
Because she may be robbing Whoville as we speak, but I would like to welcome to the show. I'm so excited about this. Laurie Pound Feille. if it's 4 syllables, I'm singing it like 5 golden rings today. So just heads up.
Because it's the
Anyways,
5th day
Laurie
of the
Feille, welcome to 2-on-1. We're so glad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very excited. Laurie and I are old friends.
I know. We've known each other for years, actually. Yes.
But Laurie, thank you for coming on. You know, I know you. I know all the things that you're doing, and you can follow Laurie online. But tell our dudes, our listeners, who you are, what do you do, and why how the Grinch Stole Christmas, specifically the one from the 60s.
Okay, well, I am pastor of First Christian Church in Minneapolis. I've been up here for 9 years in the frozen tundra. Moved here from Fort Worth, where it wasn't the frozen tundra. So, and today it's, you know, it's been single digits and it's cold outside. So yeah. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. I'm also the creator, founder of Disciples Public Presence, the Facebook group that started out just for the Upper Midwest region, for a way for pastors to show the justice work that they're doing and to help others realize that pastors can do justice work. And it spread across the country. And so we have people posting from all over the country of the different rallies they're going to, or protest, or any other type of work that they're doing that's bringing wholeness to their communities. I also serve on our Center for Indigenous Ministries, and we have some exciting news that will be coming up. You may have seen our November statement about creating a Truth and Healing Council, and so we are moving forward with that, and it's fun to be in the behind the scenes planning of all of that. So that's it. Pastoring.
Is that it?
Oh, is that, yeah,
Disciples Public Presence. Yeah,
super small. You know, you got all this free time.
I have all this free time. Yeah. Well, I'm rotating off December 31st. I rotate off the Disciples Church Extension Fund board, where I've been board chair for the past several years. And so that comes to an end. So then I really do have some free time, which will be great.
Well, where can our deuces find you? Like, how can they learn about all,
Disciples Public Presence, you can find on Facebook. All you have to do is just search Disciples Public Presence on that. And we also have a Facebook page for the Center for Indigenous Ministries.
Great.
And I think it either says Disciples before it or Disciples after it, like Disciples Center for Indigenous Ministries. But you can find both of those on Facebook.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we do ask our guests when they come on, we say, usually we say, hey, what do you want to talk about? And you chose How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yes.
So why?
Why? Because you asked me what my favorite Christmas movie was, and I immediately said The Grinch, because it is.
Okay,
and that's why. In fact, I think I told you I have my Grinch Christmas ornament here that I've had forever and a day. I love the movie. The 60s one, not the movie. I like the one you see on TV that's animated. That's my favorite. Why? Is that going to be your question?
No, I was actually going to say, leave it alone. Stop messing with the Grinch. Like, just let it be a 45-minute cartoon.
But I'll ask why. Laurie, why is it your favorite Christmas movie?
Well, so I love Max the dog. I think that image of Max when has the whole sleigh filled with the town's, Christmas stuff. And he's got the little antlers on his ears and on his head, and he just looks pitiful. It's just like the saddest moment of Max trying to pull that sleigh, and the Grinch is making him. So as a kid, I loved Max. That's what drew me to it. But you can't help but love Cindy Lou Who and her sweet little heart. I think all the people of Whoville, their kindness and grace and mercy that they show is something that I think we all could use a lot more of. And I love seeing the transformation of the Grinch, that transformation can actually happen. Yes, I realize it's an animated movie, but I want to believe that that transformation such as that can really happen.
Well, I hope that that pastors do, because that's our honestly, when you're talking about Max dragging the sleigh full of everyone's baggage and looking pitiful, I was like, oh, it's a metaphor for ministry.
Yeah. Well, that is true. Who knew as a child that that's what I was drawn to?
Well, it is marvelous to have you here with us today, and thank you for taking the time to be on tour. I guess I want to ask the first question, if I could. So, like, the whole premise is the Grinch tries to steal Christmas by taking the stuff.
Right.
And of course, the message of it is it's not about the stuff. How true is that anymore?
Well, I think that really depends on who you ask.
No, I think it's so we've just finished the season of Advent, and I don't know about y'all, but like, one, I love Advent, and if it's not Advent, it's almost Advent. But two, it's like, I always joke, like, okay, I get it. We're competing with the Lexus December to Remember or Happy Honda Days or whatever you want.
The big red bow.
Right. Big red bow. And everybody has to shop, and everybody has to buy, and everybody has to consume. And, you know, we're sitting here calling for hope, peace, joy, and love, and the work of transformation. So I guess the question is, how does the church provide this witness of Christmas isn't the stuff you get under the tree? Like, how have you shown it in your ministry? How do you recommend the church continue it on?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm hoping that through my sermons, right, that message becomes clear. We also started up here, gosh, I've been here 9 years, so maybe 8 years ago, decided that buying Easter lilies and poinsettias in memory or honor of, that then sit in the sanctuary during that time that nobody's at the church between Christmas and New Year's, and the plants die because people didn't pick them up or take them home, that it seemed a little wasteful. And so we now pick an organization, and we either bring the items that they need, or if they would prefer money because they can buy more in bulk or whatever, if that's what they need, either give money or bring the items that they're requesting. And we do that in honor and memory of our loved ones.
So it's an inversion of stuff.
Right. Right.
I like that. Yeah. It's a subversive quality to it. That's excellent. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, Disciples Public Presence was kind of subversive, so there's a little theme there. So we do that this year. We're bringing items for the refugees coming from Afghanistan that are being resettled here in the Twin Cities area, because it gets cold, as I said, and they're going to need coats and hats and gloves. And so right now our tree at church is, you can't even see the underneath of the tree, even though we, by the way, are not back full force in-person worship.
Yeah, neither.
But we have like groups of 8 coming, fully vaxxed, wearing masks, the whole bit. And they've been bringing items, and underneath the tree is just filled with coats and hats and gloves for our new neighbors.
The feast at the end of the movie. Spiff, how are you subverting material Christmas? Happy Holidays.
Happy. That is a mean question right now, because I'm looking for a car.
With the red bow.
No.
You got an air
so here's my. This is hard for me, and I'll name lots of different ways this is hard, because I do believe that capitalism is destroying who we are as like moral people, and the ways in which we can faithfully relate to each other in meaningful and sustainable ways with, justice and equity. I also think that to say don't spend $1 is not realistic, and the kingdom has grown into something in which we have to spend money on. And so it's not so much as I want it to be like, like the Grinch being like, you can't buy this in a store. Well, you can in some way, because a toy for a child that is being resettled, a child in foster care, you are spending money. It is a material thing. It may not be something that they desperately need for survival, but it is something that they will need to thrive as like a human,
Right.
because joy is something we need to thrive. And so I come from a family in which not only is gift giving our love language, it's also, we like plan for Christmas. Like it is a very big deal. There's lots of things. So we have tried over the years, and I have tried, especially as I became a person of faith and then a faith leader and all of those things, to cut back a little. And or if I buy something really extravagant, then I make sure that I am giving in a similar fashion and in equity to other spaces, right? So there are some young people that I adore and love and enjoy in my life who are big Potter people, like I am a big Harry Potter person. However, I don't love giving money to J.K. Rowling because I don't.
Turfs are on Santa's naughties list. Naughty.
Yes.
But there is something beautiful about the world of Harry Potter and the way in which it calls us into kind of best selves and use of our gifts and things like that. So I bought Harry Potter stuff for them, but I also then gave to a trans nonprofit in the UK, because I felt like that was a way in which I could hold well those two things. I don't know if it's the right thing, I'll just name, but it's how I'm navigating it. And I'm always willing to listen and learn onto how others might be navigating this time, because if I'm called to lead a church, which I am, and I say it's not found in the store, it's not found in money, then I have a real hard thing with stewardship campaigns and why asking people to give to the church when we just might need a new communion set, or we might need, I don't know. I don't know what we need.
You might need new pyramids and banners from Jeff Wonder Design.
Exactly. What, or maybe I just, we need a party for the staff, right? Because those are the types of things that you would get pushback, right? I don't think people are going to push back on communion or stoles, but like the joy of collegiality keeps a church staff continuing and wanting to work together. And so, not that your dollars go to that. For us, we are very fortunate to have other ways of funding those types of things. Everything that you give to our church goes straight into ministries and outreach and things like that. But again, it goes back to like asking the why of who you're giving to and how and things like that, right? Because people are like, I want to give these people, the unhoused people of New York, money, but I don't want them to spend it on booze. Okay, why?
Right.
And so it goes back to that. And so that's why I will just name that for me, the conversation between the complexities of capitalism and morality as people of faith and as community members, I think is hard and not one that bifurcates well.
My friend Sean was homeless for 2.5 years, and he used to do so much acid during that time because he was like, I literally had nothing to do all day.
Yeah.
I don't know how to handle that. I'm sorry. Back onto the Grinch, which
that was
with materialism, right?
Yeah, because it's also about control. Because if you give money and you say, but I don't want those people, right? Because that's usually how it's worded, to use the money for XYZ, then you're not really giving a gift.
You're
right?
the Grinch and you're staring up from your little high cliff, looking down on all those people saying, this is how they should be living. Is
the Grinch a story about stewardship? Should we have done this story during stewardship season?
Is it not always stewardship season?
Yeah, thanks, Saint Stephanie of Kendall. But seriously, like, is this a stewardship story?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, in the sense that I think it's a story about community, about bringing people into community, which is a form of stewardship, right? It's the stewardship of our time and our talents, and it could mean our resources too. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, in this day and age, it's also a stewardship of health, right? Like,
Right.
what does that look like? Maybe the Grinch is up there because he's the only one that's like, maybe it's COVID, and he's like, I am gonna keep myself away from people. I mean, it's not obviously, but
Could have been.
in this day and age, I think everything a little bit is.
Right.
As we talk about community, then I like that. I've been doing deep dive on Philippians. Laurie, I overstudy Pauline letters. That's like my hobby.
He's a big old relationship with
But
Paul.
koinonia, like, okay, it translates as fellowship, and fellowship, we of course translate in the church. We, not necessarily us, the church, not necessarily our context, as hospitality, which we also understand as have coffee and little snack foods and pop.
Right.
You can. Koinonia is holding all things in common, both joy and suffering. So how the Grinch Stole Christmas is a story of community. It's a story of koinonia.
Right.
What we talk about here at Riverside, what I'm always big on, is the difference between welcome and invitation. Where welcome is, you show up at my door on any night, you can come for dinner. Like, we have enough, we'll set you a place, we'll drag a chair in from another room, whatever. Invitation is the table set for you, we're expecting you, we want you to be there.
Right.
The Grinch is welcomed, but he's not invited in the community, if that makes sense. Or that's how I see it. Like,
You mean
in the
at
end,
the end, he's
welcome.
invited
He's
and welcome.
Is he invited at the end?
Sure. I think he's invited.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, but I think it's definitely welcome. Yeah.
Welcome's important as well, because you can't target specific people in it. I don't know.
Well, I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Laurie.
No, go ahead.
I was just, one of the things that weirdly struck, I watched the movie last night for the first time in years. Just, it generally, I'll just name, it's not one of my holiday kind of go-tos. I'd seen it, but it's short, which I like, which makes me then really focus, because I think that all of our attention is a little bit strung at this moment. And one of the things I really appreciated was, like, to go into Whoville, there's just a big arch that says welcome to Whoville.
Right.
And there's something to it in which, the church, what does the church look like if we say welcome, but also who we are? It wasn't just that it was an extension of welcome, but it's a proclamation of identity in a way that I think is really helpful. And churches generally stop after the welcome. We say welcome, or we say all are welcome, but we don't say welcome to what. And I'm wondering, in your work of around justice and pastoral care and leadership and preaching, and Arthur in the same vein in Wichita, what could we learn from just even, I guess, that sign about saying who we are up front, and letting people know what they are, that they are both welcome, but also what they are welcome into.
Right. There have been times throughout the year where we will use our mission and vision statement as our benediction. So I won't say that it's the welcome at the beginning of worship, but we will use that. So people who hear who we say we are, they get to decide whether we're really living that out or not, right? The other thing is, we always make sure before worship, as I'm sure many congregations are doing now, of doing a land acknowledgement. At the beginning of our worship, we do a land acknowledgement. That right there says something about who we're at least trying to be. It doesn't just stop at a land acknowledgement, though. Just doing a land acknowledgement, then it's just a performance. You have to follow through, and that could mean reparations. I mean, that could mean a lot of different things. But I think what we do during worship, especially right now, because we don't have any meetings in person, what we do online should be speaking to who we say we are, so that people know, from our sermons and our prayers and the lyrics we use in hymns, all of that should be speaking to who we are.
I like that. So I serve one of the 2 open and affirming disciples churches in Wichita. And I'm going to say we're one of the 2 open and affirming churches in Kansas as well. We have had people who,
That is
what's
sinful.
that? Well, it's interesting. I'm sorry, this is a side note. The Kansas region ordains openly queer folk. Like there's not even a challenge to it. Like it is that Midwestern libertarianism of like, we're not going to discuss it, but it's not we're avoiding it because it's controversial. Like they just don't care. But I know you could argue they should, and maybe we could talk about like, what does welcome mean, but the full identity of a person. Okay. And maybe we can go there. The open and affirming thing with the church I serve is that I'm like, well, we should be going to gay bars, because I promise you that there are so many people who were chased out of their churches, who miss their churches, who would show up. We should be going to colleges and being like, are you a crazy, gender diverse, marvelous, opinionated, super liberal, let's burn down the system college kid? Come on in. And our folks are like, they're welcome. And they mean it. And they mean it so much. And they're also not ready for big change. Like one Grinch they can accept. What happens if the entire mountain full of Grinches come into town and start serving their weird cuisine and blasting Madonna all the time? I know I mixed like 4 metaphors. I don't really care. It's a great question. Thank you, Arthur. You're welcome.
Yeah, you always ask great questions. That sort of leads to about throwing stones. Can I make that jump?
Do you want to hold that, because I know that points to your final question, but we can talk about it now and come back to it too. It's fine. Okay. Hey, so the song "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch," I like to think it's a hymn because there's no chorus. It's just 6 verses of just a beat down on the Grinch. Like it's just an insult track. And I don't know. Do hymns need choruses?
Do hymns need choruses?
I don't have a good question about it. I just
no, I do. Okay, can I riff off that? I think that there is something there that I think everyone knows. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
We all just know it. It helps you understand who he is, maybe who he was, but at least in the moment, who he is. And I wonder if we don't actually bring the more challenging parts of society and ourselves into song in a way that might be beneficial for the church to name certain things. And because sometimes you can easily, or more easily, I don't know, understand, digest, kind of take in challenging topics and things if you do so through song, not as like a diversion tactic. I'm not saying like you got to sing this upbeat song about being racist. But what does a song of lament that names our past, or the sins of this world, and how each of us both or how we individually and communally participate or benefit or whatever that looks like? Would we do well to infuse some of our history and our lament and all of that into our liturgical worship through song?
Sort of like the Psalms.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean that it was people expressing some really horrible things in some Psalms, starting out with questioning God, and then whatever it is, and then ending up with some trust, hopefully at the end. Yeah.
So should we write new songs?
Yeah, I think so.
That's all I've got so far.
No, but I think I don't know. I listened to that and I was like, oh, what would that look like if we were like, like I don't even want to sing it to the tune, but just being like, we are who we are. We are informed by our past. It does not mean that it has to be where we are going, but to completely ignore it in a part of our liturgy seems inauthentic to the human faith experience.
Well, that's right. The danger of the Revised Common Lectionary, which is why I've avoided it for 10 years. Like Psalm 139, where can I flee from your presence? I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Also, I hate with a perfect hate. I hate everyone you hate. Death to your enemies, O Lord.
Right.
And we should read that part and we should go, what do we do with this? Like, by the rivers of Babylon, we hope to get infanticide back.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. But now I want to write like a confessional hymn to the tune of "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch."
Okay.
I'm going to work
Do
on
it.
it.
Do it. Gives you something to do in your spare time.
We appropriate our brothers and sisters.
The park has so beautifully kind of in the last couple of years reinvented its worship space through music and through this kind of collaborative worship experience that we're making. And this was happening before we went online, and it's translated fine. I mean, like to the best of, I guess, ability. But I just think, I don't know, maybe we're just in seasons of lament here, but it seems like we don't, as a justice seeking congregation, as we kind of posture ourselves and claim to be, we name, like, we're not one that shies away from naming it in other spaces like prayer or preaching. Like, I would be absolutely not, like, my community expects me to name like the sin of white supremacy every single Sunday in every single sermon. We pray for forgiveness from literally every systemic, like transphobia, homophobia, all of it. We name it in worship, with the exception often of our music. And yet so many people come for our music, those songs stick in your head. And I'm wondering if in y'all's, I don't know, opinion, maybe, like, what would that do for the church? Because that little earworm that says, whatever that song might be, but that reminds you that you've got work to do, both on yourself, both for your community, both with God and for God, and all of that. I don't know.
I just got to give a shout out to a friend of the show, Whitney Waller, because we challenged the kids once to write new camp prayers. Because all of them are from the 70s. Like, none of them know the Addams Family anymore, and yet we're doing it. So Whitney took Thrift Shop by Macklemore, and the line I still remember is, "Walk into the church like, what up? I got a big God." So thanks, Whitney. That was my
but it sticks with you. Music sticks with you.
Right.
You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch is social canon. Like, everyone knows it. So does it do something for maybe evangelism then? Not even just like, I am sure. Now, Laurie and I have been friends for years, but we've never marched together.
Right. It's one of the few things that we've never done together.
Yeah, one of the few things that Laurie and I have shockingly never done together is, is march together, but we have marched together in the I will guarantee there are protest songs that you and I both know have never been in the same protest.
Of course.
I mean, in the same city. And so I just, I don't mean to harp on this, but I just think that there's something there that, like, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You can say you're a mean one, and like, people will respond, Mr. Grinch. Right. And so, like, I think that we might be able to use that for the good of the kingdom, in ways that, if we are brave enough and bold enough and prophetic enough to do so, could really have impact, like generational impact.
So if we, part of what we struggle with is finding traditional hymns with more progressive language.
Oh yeah, because our hymnals, like,
right. And it's, by the way, Brad Lyons, you do a great job. We love you. Sorry that Laurie.
We do love Brad. That's not Brad's fault.
He doesn't edit it, but there's a lot of patriarchal language, which by itself is problematic. In tension or in dialogue, it's fine, but we also don't have a lot of matriarchal language to balance it.
Well, there's a lot of white supremacist language in it too.
A lot of white supremacist language.
Right.
So do we just rewrite it?
We do at times.
I mean, we've just stopped using it, to be really honest.
Yeah.
Like, for us,
just change lyrics.
I mean, there are certain things in which we change lyrics because, again, we're not making space for someone does not mean cutting someone else out. Right. So it's like, if you are someone that enjoys a traditional hymn, that is fine. That's beautiful. Like, let's do that. And we will, try and we make space for it every once in a while, like we just do. But we also infuse music and poetry and like meaningful things that are less that are more secular, because we can recognize that God is still working in and through that as well.
Right.
And I say this all the time. The theater has been my church far longer than the church has been my church, and so listening to Rent is a holy experience for me.
Yeah.
Or other parts of, we got Sondheim month coming up. There are moments of Sondheim that truly connect me to God in ways that no hymn, I don't care which one it is, name any and all of them, has ever done for me.
Right.
And
Onward Christian Soldiers.
Oh, besides that one,
well, it's because it's speaking truth. It's speaking truth of the not Onward Christian Soldiers, but songs from Rent.
You heard it here first. Laurie Poundfield really loves them.
No. But the songs from Rent, they're speaking truth. They're speaking reality, and so yes, it's going to connect, which is what you're getting to about words of our hymns. Like, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
So, but then if we're opening up the canon in that, and we're expanding the story, let's talk about the fact that there's been numerous cartoon versions or numerous expanded versions of the Grinch.
And we don't want to talk about that.
I know we don't want to talk about it, but so they tried to make it longer or better, and I would say they succeeded on the former, not the latter. In 2000 with Jim Carrey, there was a cartoon version with Benedict Cumberbatch in which the Grinch speaks. What does it mean to reinterpret the stories that we love, that are classic, that are kind of untouchable in that, but to represent them and to redo them in a way that younger generations might be able to connect?
And I think that's
okay.
okay.
We're talking about with hymns.
Right. And I think that's okay. The one that I will always connect to is the animated version from the 60s. I just will. But if other people can connect to the story, because I think there's a greater story to be told from that, then that's okay.
Okay.
Well, I think, isn't that like part of like what the exegetical process of scripture anyways, or community and whatnot? Like, some people are going to be really moved by certain parables and stories and whatever, and other people are just going to, I don't know, some people really like Paul and other people don't, and that's okay.
Are you seriously throwing hands in episode 49 on the year? Has it taken you this long?
No, I'm not throwing hands. I'm just saying there are spaces in which people find meaning, and it doesn't have to be for everyone. It's okay to expand. It's okay to say it didn't work, right? Because that's also part of it, is like, should we continue to keep making it? Maybe not, but like, do some people love it? Yeah, that's okay. But also, like, how do we hold space, I guess, for all of that, or should we? Is a different question. So I don't know. That was not an answer, other than like, I think that there's something there in the exegetical process of saying, this becomes meaningful. Why is the story in our canon? Why is the Grinch still 70, 60 years later, still a part of what we're doing? And why are we trying to reinvent it, other than technology plays a big part, right? And just like how our eyes actually view things. So there's a, like a physicalness, but like that our scriptures and our things that we find meaning, if we start to name why and how, then we can actually start to see how then the sustainability of it can play into who we are. And if it's the why question that we need to continue to ask, will inform where we think we want to go, maybe where we're going. If we say, Laurie, why do you like this? I hate, let me just say, like, I don't hate it, but if I hated this movie and I was in relationship with Laurie to say, what's your favorite Christmas movie? And you say this, and I'm like, oh, tell me why. Tell me why. Or help me understand why. Then we have a deeper understanding of God through relationship of each other.
Right. And I can tell you that, by the way, deeper than just Max and Cindy Lou Who, too.
Sure. Would you like to share?
Oh,
or
I don't know. Can I go there yet? Arthur keeps telling me I can't go there.
Look, I'm just saying, at the end of the show, in about a few minutes, we're going to ask a question. And if you've already gone there, you can easily say, I just answered that question, and that's fine. You do.
Okay,
you.
then I'll wait.
There it is.
Okay, wait.
I'll wait.
But I wonder if so this has been who was it? It was Mike Busey. We had on the show for our David Byrne episode. And he is one of the ministers at Judson. Yes, that is his new book, The Book of Tiny Prayer. It's exceptional. He reminded us in that conversation the importance of not assuming that you know a community or what a community wants or needs, but like in saying, okay, what does a church want? Oh, we want young families to come into the church. Rather than saying like, how do we make ourselves attractive to young families, going to the young families and saying, what do you need from community? What do you find meaningful in community and all of that? And I was struck by that for this movie, particularly in which the Grinch from his high little cave, assumes he knows why and how this is meaningful, and comes to find out what he had thought all along is wrong and changes him. For each of you, I wonder, what do you wish the church would be curious enough to ask? And what might we need to do to receive whatever the answer is?
That's a great question.
It is a really good one. And there's a lot of questions that I think we need to ask. But I do think, we need to ask questions about, so this is church as disciples of Christ. This is a question. I think we need to ask who we really are, in the sense of how were we founded? Where were we founded? And we all know, right? 1832, Alexander Campbell, all that.
Language.
But we don't really look at, our whole denomination is an example of systemic white supremacy, because it was created that way. I mean, that's created by white people. That's what happens. And I think we really need to ask our questions about that, about who we say we are, when, we're all about the open table, right? Everybody is welcome, a movement for wholeness. I mean, all of these phrases. I think we need to ask the questions, the deep, hard questions about what that means that we were founded in 1832. What is that? What was the world like? What did that mean? Who was included? Who got to help make the decisions at that time? And along the way, who have we excluded? What voices are missing? I think we need to ask those questions to live into who we're really being called to be. In many ways, the Grinch voice was excluded, but maybe the Grinch also wasn't, didn't want to enter that conversation, but I don't know. But I think those are the questions that we need to be asking, the deep questions, and realizing that what we hear, we may not like. It may call something out about us that we don't like. But if we don't ask the questions and we don't address who we really are and how we were founded and how we've grown and all of that, then I don't think we're being true to the gospel. So
I think I would. So there's this thing going around on Twitter, which I love, and it's Jewish rabbis and teachers writing, they're tweeting out like what their letter is, to help the dominant culture understand these Christian students. But it's the idea of like, what if it were reversed? And like a Christian child may show up wearing an ugly sweater. These are supposed to be ugly. They do want you to comment on them. If you're not sure, say that it is festive. And like, I think in the context of the Grinch, the question is, what does it mean that his understanding as an outsider of Christmas is that it's about the stuff under the tree? Mm-hmm. What does that mean about the celebration of your holiday? And therefore, the question the church may not want to hear, and definitely doesn't want to answer, is, what does it mean that people aren't going somewhere else? They just don't want to be with us.
Right.
Like it's not to be a Methodist. It's, I'm going to stay home.
Yeah.
And and Spiff, what's your answer?
I mean, I think it's a combination of all of those things, right? To be really honest, it is the why, what stops us from saying, this is, here we are anew, right? I'm a big fan of, like, I love Christmas because it gives us it gives us the permission to start again, because of the, like, we have new birth, and says, like, here is something new to begin with. And I mean, if we really look at our big holidays, which is a different conversation of maybe leaning into big holidays or whatnot, but they're both real reminders of how to start again and why we start again and to start again. And what we have done, and I'm going to say the church writ large, I know that we're all three disciples, and all of us, serve disciples spaces, but it's bigger than that. It's the church writ large that, how do we say no more, right? We can recognize, here's our history. Why do we want to care? Like, why are we so tightly grasping
right
who we were at the detriment of who we could be?
right
Well, who we are becoming. Like,
Yeah.
transformation, we participate in it, and we can certainly stop it, but we can't control it.
Right. And so, yeah, so it's both of those things for me, of and I don't think we have taught ourselves to grieve spaces that are harmful in a way that allows us to let go.
right
And so I think that's why we can't hear why are we still talking about Alexander Campbell? He literally owned people. Like, it's
right
and so, but we've got two, right? We're Stone we're Stone and Campbell people. So, like, let's lean into Stone, or whatever. Why do we even have? Here's the first time in the history of any Protestant, mainline denomination, that we are led by a Black woman. That's incredible. What does it mean to start today and say, we look a little bit more whole right now because of
amen.
who we have called into leadership and who we have called into the church? And what does it mean to say today is our Christmas? And we are being born into this newness, and move forward from that. And the next time something changes, now there's the challenge to this that says, like, isn't every new person in a completely different church? And I would probably, yes, actually. But for the sake of just the ability to claim that, I wish we could lean more into the kind of a baptism of the whole church, to say we are new and here we are, and to let go of the sins of the past. They're still there. We know them. We can document them, and we can lament and name them and utilize them for our best growth, but to not hold them so tightly as a cornerstone of who we are, again, at the expense of so many, and specifically at the expense of who God is calling us to be.
Right.
Hey, Laurie, we have a question in these shows, and it's the same final question we've asked in all 80 episodes of this show.
Right.
The final question is one that Spiff asks because I know how to spell one row.
Okay.
See, it's about knowing your gifts. It's about knowing how to be in community.
Tis a gift to ask questions. Tis a gift to spell. Tis a gift.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm ready.
No,
I'm ready.
Better and
okay. So I will ask this final question, but do we have time? I think we have time for one more, because I have a different kind of question quickly.
Okay, let's do it. Sorry, Laurie. Once again, you don't get to answer that question.
I don't get to answer that question.
I promise, Laurie. I promise it'll be okay.
It's okay.
I know that we have some time. We meet the Grinch as like a fully formed adult,
Right,
atop a mountain far away, and I've never heard it asked how he got there, what led him to those circumstances, and at what point did the Who people know that he's there? It's not like he's. So do they just like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, what is like, we keep saying, oh, Grinch going in, doesn't understand them, but have they ever thought to say, what's meaningful to you?
Right.
What, like what do you need? Because you're all alone as, were you fully formed as an adult? Like, did you have a childhood that led you up this mountain and left you there? It's a question, I suppose, about curiosity and how we might posture ourselves into a space of curiosity to inform best practices to include the other. And in this season of newness, in that Christmas was last week, and that we love this time of year very deeply for lots of really beautiful reasons, how might we use the new birth of Christ to help us be more curious about those that are that we still look at from afar?
I think you have the answer. You said the curiosity. I think that's like the church should be curious about people that they don't know very well, or seem totally different than them, or are living on the margins of what we consider to be the margins, which may not really be the margins, right?
How are we defining margins at this point? Yeah.
Right. I mean, seriously, we
Yeah.
may say someone's living on the margins, and they themselves, I mean, we may say that money wise and everything, which would be a reality, but we need to ask the questions. We need to, I mean, here in Minneapolis, we have this wonderful holy space called George Floyd Square. And a lot of people are afraid to go to George Floyd Square. And George Floyd Square is like one of the safest, holiest, most welcoming spaces in the whole city. But you have to be curious enough to go. You have to be curious enough to spend time, not just to go like it's a tourist attraction, but to go and meet people and talk with people and hear from the community. What is it that the George Floyd Square community wants? What is it that they desire? What is their goal? What is their vision, right? And allow that to be their vision. Not to tell them that's not their vision, right? No, I'm sorry, that can't be your vision. I mean, that's not it. The church should just go and be present with and learn about and love our neighbor. I don't know, Jesus said something about that, about loving neighbor as self, but that is that curiosity. Okay, there is this homeless camp over here. We have quite a few homeless camps, even in the wintertime here in the Twin Cities. And instead of just, they need to do something, whoever they are, they need to get them into some shelter. I don't like them being near my neighborhood. They need to move in a different, right? I mean, those type of
can you see them from
your
airplane hangar?
Right.
Terrible
But
callback.
go to that encampment and ask, what do you need? What is it that you want? What can we do to walk with and be an ally, not to tell you how to live and what to do, but what can we do? And I think that's that curiosity you're talking about, that if the church would become curious again, I think we would be more present in the world, not just in those four walls of a church building.
And curiosity requires vulnerability, and we don't be vulnerable.
Well, and the vulnerability and the lack of, I think, just writ large, we do things because we expect things. And so part of it is the expectation that if we reach out to a community that is outside of our own, right? If the Who's are reaching out to the Grinch, assuming that they're modern day kind of community,
right.
Is there an expectation that the Grinch then becomes one of them in a way that they recognize as one of them, rather than do they become like him? You know what I mean? Like, where is that space? Or like maybe they get his property, right? Oh, we've welcomed you in because we're redrawing property lines,
right?
Or all of those.
And we want you to be a Grinch. We just don't want to see it in public.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can still be the Grinch, but you got to act like us.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Curiosity just being like, I'm a big person on curiosity. That's like my hermeneutic of curiosity is really kind of where I lean into. but I think we do ourselves a disservice in naming that we don't have we do have an expectation that we're going to get something in return, whether it's salvation or whether it's a new member is an entirely different conversation, but there is an expectation, and it's not just of the goodness of our heart. And so that community and that seeks to welcome the stranger, especially in this season, must do so with an understanding that they will be changed. And I guess that should be the expectation.
That we would be changed.
Yeah, that we would be changed, and not that we are changing other people.
Right.
All right, Laurie, we have a question for you.
We have a
you have a last question for me?
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Wait,
my
I
dear.
have one other question. I'm kidding. Sorry.
Okay.
It has been an episode, friends. Good thing Laurie and I are such good and
I know. If we hadn't had all those experiences together before, I know.
So true.
I'm still amazed. I thought you and Brian were brother and sister, not married. So
that's weird. So
no,
okay.
Sorry, I'm kidding. Joke out. I apologize. That didn't work at all.
It didn't work. No.
I'm sorry. That was mean.
I mean, I am from Mississippi, but that doesn't mean that. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll cut that whole space.
Please do.
Sorry. That's not kind to our guests. I apologize, Laurie.
Don't make my best friend Laurie mad. Okay. We need her to come back.
We cry.
All right, Laurie, thank you again for coming on. We are just so
thank
honored
you for having me.
That we closed the year with someone we love and respect so dearly, and we end season 2 on such a beautiful note of a call to curiosity, a call to community, and just acts in the name of a just God.
Right.
So just thank you for helping us close out this year well.
Thank you for having me.
As is our tradition, our final question is: what biblical narrative, theme, character, book, etc. are you most reminded of in How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
All right. So there are several that would come like right off the top. Somebody whose heart has been transformed, right? Paul, for Arthur, Paul.
Thanks.
Jonah, right? Jonah was like, I'm not going to go, just sort of that, I don't want to let them have anything good, right? They don't deserve good. But the one that really speaks to me is in the book of John. And it's John chapter 8, where the stoning of the woman, which you're going, how did you get there, Laurie? Well, I'm a big Renee Girard fan, and Mimetic Desire, where that's how we learn, is that we desire, as we were talking about competition before the show started, right? That's how we learn, that we desire something someone else has, but then it can turn into rivalry, which can turn into violence. I want that. Well, Girard uses this incredible example in his book. I saw Satan fall like lightning, or I see Satan falling like lightning. And he talks about Ephesus in the 2nd century, and they had a plague, and the leaders of Ephesus went to Apollonius, who was considered a wise person, and said, can you help us cure our city? We have this disease. Oh, like COVID. Can you cure our city? And so Apollonius came and gathered everybody into the amphitheater and put a old blind beggar on the stage of the amphitheater, and then began to tell the crowd, that's your reason that you're ill, and start throwing stones. Throw a stone. You got to throw a stone, because if you throw a stone, then you got to kill this person. You got to get rid of this person so that you are then well. And Apollonius finally got a person to throw that first stone. First stone is thrown. Everybody else joins in, right? It's that mass violence, the crowd. Everybody throws it. So the beggar looks up, and they see this like anger in his eyes, which may be because he's having stones thrown at him for no reason. And they decide he really is like this devil person, and they kill him. So Renee Girard compares that to the woman who they all want to stone in the Gospel of John, and Jesus, bends down and he's writing in the dirt, and then he says, "Those without sin be the first, throw that first stone." Well, now how does this come back to? So Jesus showed a way of living in community, of acceptance and love and grace, compared to let's make somebody the enemy and kill them. In the Grinch, the Whoville really could have made the Grinch. Grinch stole everything. The Grinch took everything. And they could have easily gone after the Grinch and eliminated the Grinch. And that would have been fine. They would have been rid of him. Everything would have been great. But instead, they took a different route and they welcomed in. They showed this grace and mercy that allowed the Grinch's heart to be transformed, which is totally different than that's our enemy, we've got to get rid of. And I realize this doesn't play out in all walks of life. Don't worry. I realize that there's, it doesn't. But if you look at this understanding of we welcomed you into community instead of excluding you from community and deciding that you are the reason that we're not well, instead of the community being the community and saying, we're going to still show you love and grace. We don't like what you did, right? But we're going to still show you love and grace, and we're going to still go on, and we're going to have our joy in our festival, and we're going to be who we are, and we're not going to come and eliminate you. So to me, there's some Renee Girard at play here with mimetic desire, and I realize that for many that's not good. They're going to go, I don't understand, but I see it as a way of being community, being who you are, that's grace-filled, and people seeing that no matter what, you're still a grace-filled community. That doesn't mean that there aren't consequences for action. So please don't hear that. But it means that can transform other people instead of a community excluding and going after someone. So that's where I see it.
That's one of the most thorough answers I think
I know. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I love it.
I mean, why not bring up Renee Girard during the How the Grinch Stole Christmas? I'm reminded of what Derrida said about, no, I'm kidding. My answer is,
are you me?
Cindy Lou Who is the Ethiopian eunuch. She's obviously a deviant in the community because she's an outsider, because like I know where my child is in the middle of the night, but she's talking to a stranger and has no problem being like, what prohibiteth this man from coming to the feast of roast beast? Right. Incidentally, after preaching the Ethiopian eunuch, I was tempted to put in our church's baptismal liturgy, here is water, what stops this person from being baptized? And the congregation responds, not a damned thing, but I haven't put in damned yet. Anyway, Spiff.
I love it. All right, my final answer. This is a leap, I think, but we'll see. I'm gonna go with the Grinch and is Peter. There is a denial of what is true, what is happening, of the ways in which community is working, and God is at work in said community through the spirit of Christmas. There is multiple denials, and yet in the end becomes kind of the rock on which this new community and this new spirit of Christmas is built.
The Grinch has the keys to Whoville.
Mm-hmm. There are
no keys. Yeah,
there are no keys because it
need keys
because it is an open space. But yes, so I'm gonna go with. and I realize I've never. I don't think I've ever. I don't know. Used Peter as a final answer before. I mean,
we're gonna have to ask somebody at 2-on-1 Stats to let us know.
It's true, but I literally watched it and I was like, oh, he's like mean, and then he's mean again, and he's mean again, and like these people are just like living, they're just doing their thing. Right. They're building community in a very intentional and specific way, which is building up to Christmas, right? And so I was just like, I'm sorry, are we denying ourselves 3 times here, Peter? And then has this like full revelation of like, what it actually means, how he has participated in both this kind of the deconstruction of what was, and then been transformed into what is, so that we all can come together for what can be.
I love it. And what a great way to end our year of 2-on-1. Laurie Feille, thank you very much for being
Thank you for having me.
guest in 2021 and for talking how the Grinch stole Christmas. We are sponsored by Jeff Wunrow Designs. Incidentally, you've got 3 days, 2.5 days really, to place an order on stoles of 15% off with the coupon 2-on-1. Not you particularly, Laurie.
Oh, they're the best stoles though. I have lots of his stoles. I love them.
You can get 15% off. It's the best coupon by using 2-on-1 at checkout.
Okay.
One word, no letters. That goes for our listeners as well. That expires on December 31st, as does 2021. But this has been 2-on-1. We hope you'll join us for season 3 next year. I am the Reverend Arthur Stewart.
I am the Reverend Stephanie Kendall. And you are
I'm Laurie Feille. Sorry, I didn't know I was getting to join in that.
We don't tell our guests that sometimes, but other times we do. That's my New Year's resolution for 2020.
Just making sure we always tell our guests that we're going to do a
Thank y'all. We'll see you next year.
Get more 2-on-1 at twoononeproject.com.